gas furnaces here, they have a door switch. Anytime you have the door off, it kills the power. That's for safety. But for testing purposes, a little cheap Harbor Freight magnet, hold that in. The biggest key to gas furnaces is just knowing their sequence of operation. We can jumper from red to white. The inducer motor will kick on first. Once that pressure starts, it'll make this switch close. The board checks for all of that. Any part of the system that breaks down, the board will stop. It's going to make the igniter glow. After a set time, it'll kick the gas valve on. So it sends the gas through the valve, through the manifold. You have a bunch of orifices right there. They go through the chute. So it just lights this end. These will light each one coming up here, and on the last one is where that flame sensor is. Now here's that quick tip again when you need to free up a hand and test for voltage. Use some alligator clips, test the lead. Connect one end to ground, it'll free your hand up. I want to show you here, the board feeds power to the flame sensor, so don't touch that. It will have voltage on it. Now we change it over to ohms here. That voltage actually travels through the flame to ground. The board senses the current, and that's how it knows that the flame present. So who knew that a flame is conductive? Common failure point is when your flame sensor gets dirty. A lot of oxidation on this one. You can clean these up with sandpaper, steel wool, wire brush. I was gifted a little keychain flame rod cleaner. You just clean it up real good and put it back in place there. That is not a one-handed job. Put your wire back on, and that's all there is to that one. You have some little roll-out switches. If those get too hot or sense the flame, they will kick that little centerpiece out. This is a manual reset, so you can push it back in. There's one on the bottom of this one too. And then you have a high limit switch. If the fan was to fail, filter gets too dirty, then those will open up. The board will sense that it's opened up and lock out. Typically anything that causes it to lock out 3 times in one call for heating will make it lock out, and just sit there and flash a code at that point. So look for codes first and foremost. And you can test things yourself if you unplug the flame sensor. Start flashing the code. In this case it kicks the blower on. You can also unplug this, it'll give a different code. You can unplug your rollout, you can unplug those. You can just test, simulate your own failures, and then see how the board reacts, see how the system reacts. One quick tip though, before you ever take off the panel over the control board, usually there's a window for you to see a light. You'll want to check that first, because as soon as you take this panel off, you let that switch out, which kills power to the board, and then you just lost whatever code was stored in there. Some boards will have a recall, but a lot don't.